Mayor Zohran Mamdani, thank you very much for your time.
Very welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for doing this. So, you've been in office for over 100 days.
Yes.
And how, at a personal level, what does being the mayor of New York feel like?
I would say it's the best job I could ever imagine. It's a job where I get to deliver for the city that I love so dearly, and I'm forever thankful to New Yorkers for entrusting me with this responsibility, because a lot of times politics feels like something you're just debating. When you're in office, you can actually deliver, and that's what we've been doing over this time.
What has surprised you the most during these days?
I think just how much you can get done. I mean, in 100 days, we delivered $1.2 billion for universal childcare. We filled 102,000 potholes. We held bad landlords accountable, secured more than $32 million, fixed 6,070 apartments. These are the kinds of things that we made sure every single day we were actually delivering for working class New Yorkers, because a lot of times politics to people, it just feels like it's irrelevant to their day-to-day struggles.
So you ran on affordability.
Yes.
You've been able to fulfill some of those promises already. Some of them you have not. What have you delivered and what's still a promise?
So when we spoke to New Yorkers over the mayoral campaign, we talked about the fact that we saw childcare as the biggest reason New Yorkers were leaving the city after housing. And we saw that because it costs a family maybe $20,000 a year, if they're lucky, for a single child for a single year. And so what we secured is $1.2 billion from the governor to deliver free childcare, not just for 3-year-olds, but also for 2-year-olds for the first time in New York City history. So we're starting with 2,000 2-year-olds this year, 12,000 2-year-olds next year, and then every single 2-year-old by the end of year 4.
And what about the younger babies?
And so that is the plan of what we do after we roll it out for all 2-year-olds, because Senator Warren talks about the fact that childcare is infrastructure. You cannot just snap your fingers and you have every center ready to go. You have to work with the childcare providers. And so that's our plan here. Is first we said we were going to fix the childcare program we had for 3-year-olds. We did that. We added 1,000 extra seats, deliver the childcare for 2-year-olds. And then after that, it'll be childcare for 1-year-olds and then younger than 1.
On housing, you promised 200,000 affordable homes in 10 years. Is that realistic?
Yes, we absolutely believe it is.
You think you're going to be able to do it before your end of your term?
That's our vision. 10 years goes a little bit beyond the 2 terms that you have at the maximum as a mayor. However, it is something that we believe is doable. And I think, frankly, it's what New Yorkers need to see, because we're talking about the #1 cost that New Yorkers are facing. The levels of housing insecurity in this city are staggering. And when we're thinking about Latino New Yorkers, they're facing the highest levels of housing insecurity in the city. So it's not just about making sure it's affordable enough for someone to live in, but also that it's habitable enough for someone to live in. Because there are a lot of tenants who've been living in conditions that frankly are unacceptable in this city.
On rent freeze, will you be able to deliver this year?
So I've been clear that I believe that New Yorkers deserve a rent freeze. Now there's the Rent Guidelines Board. It's an independent board. They'll make their determination this summer. They had 6 vacancies. We appointed them. We look forward to their deliberate.
What about fast and free buses? They're faster. They're not free yet.
So I said that I would deliver this by the time I'd be out of office. We're proud that we're already in the process of speeding up buses for more than 1 million New Yorkers, putting 6 minutes back into their pockets from each and every trip. And that is, for us, what it looks like to take the slowest buses in the United States of America and make them worthwhile for the people of this city. We're also working with the state to start to make those buses free. We're encouraged by those conversations.
Yeah. The biggest criticism to your agenda is simple. How do you pay for all this? What's your answer?
My answer is twofold. The first is we pay for it by taxing the wealthiest New Yorkers, the most profitable corporations, that little bit more, so we can make the city affordable for everyone who calls it home. And the second, it comes down also to your priorities in city government. We're showing in the midst of a generational fiscal crisis that we're still able to advance an affordability agenda while being fiscally prudent and looking to balance this budget.
So tax the wealthy. What happens if the state government doesn't approve your tax plans?
Well, I think what we've seen is working with the state government. We've already secured one proposal that would tax those who don't live in New York City but own a second home here, and where that home is worth more than $5 million, called a pied-à-terre tax.
Yes.
That'll raise $500 million. At the same time, I've also spoken that as much as I believe in the importance of public goods, I also believe in the importance of public excellence. I want to make sure that every New Yorker knows that every dollar in this budget is being spent to the best of its ability. So we've embarked on a savings plan. We've looked at more than $1.7 billion we have to find in savings, and we're not stopping there. All of this is part of ensuring that New Yorkers know we have the most efficient government that we could have in this city.
So you do think you will be able to make a reality of this taxing the wealthy in a broader way?
I think we're already seeing it now, and I think it's
$500 million is still not enough for what you want to do, right?
Well, we are still negotiating with the state. I would say that $500 million is a great step.
What would you say to New Yorkers that feel that they are still already paying very high taxes?
Well, that I am focusing on the wealthiest New Yorkers. We're talking about a pied-à-terre tax. Doesn't apply to somebody who lives in their own home, lives in New York City. We're talking about someone who lives elsewhere, owns another property worth more than $5 million. When I talk about increasing personal income taxes, it's specifically for those who make more than $1 million a year. When I talk about corporate taxes, it's not about a bodega or a small business. It's the most profitable corporations. So this all comes back to the fact that our goal is not that we tax someone and then they leave the city. Our goal is that we tax someone and then we deliver services that are so good that not only do they stay, but others are able to join them here.
President Trump has called you a communist lunatic, and you have called him a fascist. You even did so in the Oval Office. But you've had some more conversations with him, more encounters. Do you still think he's a fascist?
Yes.
Yes, why?
I think his actions are ones that line up quite neatly with the definition.
But if you think that, how come you two get along together?
Well, I think that my job as the mayor of New York City is to work with the president, no matter how I feel about many of the president's actions. The president and I are open and honest with each other. We disagree on many things. One thing we disagree on, for example, are the actions of ICE. I've said to the president directly, they are cruel and inhumane, and these are the kinds of actions that do nothing to serve the stated interest that they operate in, which is public safety. And I also know that we need to deliver for New Yorkers. And so I come to the president, I register those disagreements, and I also make clear where I think we could be working together.
You've said you support abolishing ICE. Do you worry that may scare some voters that might otherwise agree with you on immigration policy, the term abolishing ICE?
Well, I think many in this country know that ICE is a modern creation. We're speaking about something that was formed a little over a decade ago. And we know that we need to treat immigration with humanity, and that the approach of ICE is not to do so. The approach of ICE is to detain people irrespective of what they have done oftentimes. When I spoke to the president in the Oval Office the second time I met with him, I was speaking to him about a Columbia University student who was detained that morning. And 30 minutes after that meeting, he called to say that he was making the decision to release her after I'd asked him to drop those charges. My team was simultaneously working with the family of Dylan Contreras, a New York City public high school student who had been detained by ICE. Just yesterday evening, ICE detained a delivery worker who came to this country to build a better life for himself. There was no open criminal investigation, no active warrant. After he finished his DoorDash delivery, armed, masked federal agents picked him up and took him away. That's what terrifies so many across the city. And I think that many understand in this moment that is not what we need to see.
But again, do you think abolishing ICE is the answer?
I do think it's the first step that we take to actually developing a response to immigration that is humane. And we have to also understand that we have had immigration in this country for centuries. We have only had ICE for a little over than a decade. There are other ways to respond to this than in the manner that we have.
The reason I ask is that we've seen this before. Defunding the police was a big thing in the 2020s. You agreed with that, you supported that idea, and then you changed your position. You're working with NYPD. And I wonder if that language hurts Democrats, brings political backlash, and scares some more moderate voters.
Well, I think too often we're frankly trying to take our cues from what we think works with polling, what we think works with consultants. I'm just looking to be honest with New Yorkers, that when I look at ICE's actions, whether they be in New York City or elsewhere in the country, I cannot defend those actions. I do not believe that they are the actions of an agency we should try to retain. I think that we have to develop a new way of dealing with the question of immigration. It has to be a way that is much more humane.
Republican Chip Roy from Texas, he just introduced a bill named the Mamdani Act. He named it after you. He's targeting migrants with socialist political beliefs. What is your reaction?
I think that Republicans would much rather focus on me than answer the question as to why they continue to exacerbate the cost of living crisis for Americans across the country. There was so much of an urgency and a need around affordability, and all the Republican Party has been able to deliver in response to that is starting a war in Iran, killing thousands of people and increasing the prices that people were already struggling to pay across the country.
I mean, Republicans are focused on you, so I wonder if you feel any pressure to show that your ideas will work?
Yeah, I don't feel pressure from Republicans halfway across the country. I feel pressure from myself and the importance of delivering for New Yorkers. New Yorkers want to see material benefits to the very working class people that have been priced out of our politics for far too long. And that's what we're looking to deliver. That's why, to me, it's less about debating with a Republican congressman than it is filling 102,000 potholes, than it is finding $9.3 million in settlements for workers and small businesses. That's my focus.
But you are the first immigrant mayor in New York City, the first Muslim,
in a long time.
In a long time,
yes.
the first Muslim mayor in New York City. So all of that must come with some pressure.
I think it does. It's very easy in politics to get caught up with what other politicians are saying. My focus is about the people of the city. We've seen people in this city be let down by politics for far too long. And I know that for them, it matters less what you call yourself than if you can actually deliver. That's what we've been looking to do.
But do you think about the history you're making at times or not?
I try not to.
You try not to?
I try not to.
Why? Why not think about it then?
I think that there is such a self-obsession in our politics, thinking about how you will be remembered, thinking about what others say about you. We divorce ourselves from why we do this work. The focus of this work should be those that have been left behind by it, not those that have been in the heart of it.
Today, Council Member Chio says was arrested. Was that arrest justified?
It was concerning to see that video. And I have to say, when it comes to Council Member Osei, I've appreciated his leadership on fighting for his constituents. You know, this was a protest in opposition to what he describes as an act of deed theft. And that's an issue that he's brought to the forefront. And his voice is one that has helped to ensure that not only myself, but many New Yorkers are actually focusing on this issue.
Was NYPD too aggressive?
That's exactly the conversation that I'm having with my police commissioner.
Yeah. You've had that conversation, right? Yeah.
Yes. As soon as I saw that video, that's the conversation we started to have, because what New Yorkers want to know is that everything that they're seeing is actually in line with what it should be.
You've become already one of the newest faces of the Democratic Party. What do you think the Democrats should be doing now, saying now specifically, to win the midterm elections?
I think we have to remember that we have to earn voters' support. We cannot lecture them into doing so. We cannot guilt them into doing so. We have to ask ourselves, why did we lose them and how can we win them back? And I think it is very easy to only think of our politics in opposition to that of the federal administration. I think a very important question is, what are we fighting for? What is our vision for? You know, I think about FDR. He laid out very clearly the 4 freedoms. He spoke about the freedom of speech and expression. He spoke about the freedom of worship, the freedom from fear, the freedom from want. This is the kind of distillation of a politics I think that we're missing in this moment. And that's, I think, what has to be at the heart of our focus.
Is the party too focused on Trump and not talking enough about the cost of living?
I think there's always room to talk more about the cost of living and room to also define ourselves as a party that is fighting for working people. I think that there are too many times where we have to look at the history books to find Democrats who had a clear vision of what it was that they were fighting for. We need to be able to see that in the present day.
You definitely know how to get votes. You're here as the New York City mayor. I wonder how you think you did with toddlers, with President Obama, when you visited the childcare.
Well, I think it'll be a long time until we see how they vote. But I really did appreciate being with the president and having a moment to celebrate with New York City's cutest. And we not only read them a book about the importance of being together and what it can create in the city, but also the importance of investing in our youngest. And the president, I know it was a real gift for so many who were there to be able to see him in action.
I know you're a football fan, so I want to talk about the World Cup.
Please.
What do you want this World Cup, the final in New York, to mean to this city?
I want it to be a moment that New Yorkers remember for the rest of their lives, and not just those who are lucky enough to afford a ticket to actually see the game in person, but anyone who is in this city. You know, as you said, I'm an obsessed soccer fan. I went to the World Cup in 2010 in South Africa.
You did.
And some of my fondest memories were not in the stadium. They were actually outside in the fan zone, moving through the cities on a 24-hour bus that I took from one city to the next. You feel a real spirit of the game. And we want this to be a city transformed, not just for the many that we are welcoming from across the world, but also for New Yorkers. And I'll tell you, before I was the mayor, I was an assembly member. I represented a part of Queens, Astoria, and Long Island City. When it was Copa America, so many constituents were so excited. When it was the Africa Cup of Nations, so many constituents were excited. This is that moment, but on a whole nother level.
But how do you make sure that happens, that local businesses benefit and ordinary fans benefit too, not only FIFA?
I think a lot of that comes from the focus that we will have to deliver on. And we're looking at how we can ensure this is a multi-billion-dollar economic opportunity for small businesses across the 5 boroughs. We don't just want tourists to come to New York City, go through Midtown and head to the game. We want them to experience the beauty and the breadth of this city. And I think going back to it as well, we want to make sure that you can feel this, that you can go and watch the game in a plaza, that you can experience the beauty of our small businesses, and that you take this month as a chance to rediscover this city.
Any guesses who will be the World Cup champion?
I mean, we always got to root for the host nation. We're pulling for the U.S.
Or the US?
We're pulling for the U.S. men's national team, but we'll say El Tri can come in second.
All right. Let me ask you this, just to finish with this. A lot of Latino voters might be, conservative about what to think about democratic socialism. How do you define democratic socialism after 100 days in office?
I think politics is a series of choices, and democratic socialism is the choice of fighting for everyone. I think that it comes back to the fact that we have to deliver for people, because I believe that the worth of an ideology can be judged in its delivery. And so for me, I want less to win a voter's belief in my ideology by how I explain it to them, and rather by how I deliver it for them. Because if I'm going to talk to you about the importance of universal childcare, something that's transformative, but I can't fill the pothole outside of your window, then why should you believe in me? And so we're trying to show a pothole politics, a belief that there's no problem too big, no task too small, that we can do all of these things and do them together.
¿Cómo va su español? Está aprendiendo español, ¿no?
Yo no hablo español, lo siento, señor.
Me dijeron que está tomando clases, que está aprendiendo.
I'm trying. I'm learning bit by bit.
How is it going?
I have still a ways to go, but I do have friends who've told me that it's not la renta, it's la renta.
La renta, and it hurts.
I'm working on it. Yeah, it's working on it.
Thank you very much. Gracias,
Very
Alcalde
welcome.
Mamdani.
De nada.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you very much.